day, and he wondered, could she be one of them? He was afraid she would disappear if he looked away even for a second. Then she dropped her chin, running her fingers along the frothy waves, a tiny smirk playing along her mouth.
That's peculiar, he had thought. What's she smirking about?
His eyes snapped from her full pink lips to soft purple eyes. All he could do was gape. Purple eyes? Incredible. You know that's considered rude, to stare in most places. She had grinned at him expectantly, yet he still hadn't moved a muscle. He couldn't. Rolling her eyes at him, she had gestured for him to come closer. Come introduce yourself. He recalled how he had wanted to run to her, but that wouldn't do. He was a prince, and princes were dignified. So instead he had collected himself and strode toward her, attempting an air of confidence. But it was just his luck that on the first step he'd caught his boot on a rock, stumbling and flailing his arms as he attempted to catch his balance. However, he had instead somehow entangled his feet in seaweed, landing on his stomach with a face full of sand. Curses and sand had spewed out of his mouth. Mark growled and clenched his jaw, the sand crunching between his teeth.
Figures, he grumbled to himself. There goes any chance of wooing her.
Female laughter, interspersed with an occasional wheeze, had then tickled his ears, bringing his attention back to the woman. He'd been so embarrassed that he had rolled over and threw an arm over his face. Perhaps if he couldn't see her, then she couldn't see him. If only life worked that way. A cool drop of water had plopped onto his face.
What the devil was that?
Moving his arm, he'd squinted up at the purple-eyed beauty, who was at that very moment leaning over him. His heart stuttered, which surprised him.
Is it supposed to do that?
She had shoved her hand out at him, laughter dancing in those unusual eyes of hers. I'm Ivy, she had stated. You should have seen my fall in the forest last week. I tripped on nothing at all. You figure out how that happened. I can tell you one thing, it was not pretty, she'd continued. He'd blinked. She talked fast. Mark didn't think she had taken a breath. She'd grabbed his hand and pulled him up. Here, let me help you up. Her impish grin had enchanted him, making him feel right at home. She'd changed his life that day, for in her he had found something he didn't even know he needed. The vivid memory faded, and the present came creeping back in. Mark's gaze once again sought the waves below. Without Ivy, he was weary of his empty life. The passing of time had not diminished his ache for her. And as each day passed, his memories of her faded bit by bit. He couldn't remember the sound of her voice anymore, and it killed him. Self-loathing bubbled up at his uselessness. He didn't recognize himself anymore. 30 years of love and memories haunted him every day. Again, the waves seemed to beckon him. He knew it would be easy to take just one step. If he was a weaker man, perhaps he might have. He scoffed, thinking the ocean would likely just spit him back up. He pondered what the future would hold. How was he to die? Would he go to sleep one day, never to wake up? Or would he instead bleed out on a battlefield somewhere, sword in hand? How would he be remembered? The quiet scuff of a boot roused him from his morbid reverie, and he internally groaned. Lord save him from one of his son's interventions. Without turning around, he asked,
To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit, son? Decided to check up on your old man, have you?
Ivy had called her father old man, and the memory brought a smile to his face. He already knew what his son Tehl would say, so he shook his head, instead answering his own question.
No, I think not.
He reached out and rapped his knuckles on the window frame.
I highly doubt this is a social visit, as it's been a while since you last visited me.
His eldest son was pragmatic and logical, putting duty before all else. If he were visiting, then it had to do with Aermian business. Mark turned to study his oldest boy. A strong azure gaze met his own. He supposed Tehl was not so much a boy anymore.
What is it you need, son?
Tehl was casually leaning his broad shoulders against the cold stone wall, one black brow arched, the spitting image of his mother.